If you are self-employed and work from home, you might be eligible to take a home office deduction. So today we're going to talk about how to calculate your home office deduction if you are renting your home. If you own your home, don't worry, I'm going to be making another video that explains how you can calculate your home office deduction. So just because you work from home doesn't make you immediately eligible to take a home office deduction. There are a few qualifications that you have to meet. So let's talk about the requirements in order to be eligible for a home office. So the first requirement is that you have to be self-employed. So if you work from home and you're working for an employer that pays you a paycheck that's reported on a W-2, then you cannot take the home office deduction. You have to be self-employed or an independent contractor. The second requirement is that it has to be your primary place of business. So you can't also rent an office space and write that off on your taxes and claim a home office. You're limited to one primary place of business on your tax return. Now, if you are a dancer and you work at a spicy club, there is an exception for you, which I will go into detail about in another video. The last requirement is that your home office has to be used solely for work. So you can't write off a space that is used for other purposes as well as business. So if you cam from your bedroom where you also sleep, can't write that off. However, if you have a spare bedroom that is only used as a home office, or if you have a storage space where you store work equipment and only work equipment in that space, then you could write that off. If you have two workspaces in the same home for the same business, you'll want to include both of those spaces in your calculation. Now let's get into how you actually calculate the home office deduction. So the first thing that you're going to need is the total square footage of your home. If you don't know the total square footage of your house off the top of your head, I recommend looking up your address on Zillow or Redfin because they sometimes have that information on there. Next, you're going to need to know the square footage of your home workspace. If you use part of a room as your home office, make sure that you only measure the part of the room that is exclusively used for work. And don't forget to measure any closet space or storage space that you're using for work. The last thing that you're going to need is the total amount that you paid in rent, utilities, or other home expenses throughout the year. Don't forget to include expenses like renter's insurance, parking fees that you pay for your building, etc. You can include your internet in your home office deduction, but if you spend a lot of time online for work, there's another method that I recommend instead. Now I'm going to use my home office as an example to show you how to calculate your deduction. So we're going to use the square footage of your home office compared to the square footage of your entire house to figure out the percentage of your rent and your home expenses that we can write off. As an example, the total square footage of my house is 2,145 square feet, and we just measured my home office, and the square footage is 11.4 feet by 10.9 feet. Since this is the only space in my house that I use exclusively for this business, this is going to be the total square footage of my home workspace for this business, which is 124.26 square feet. So now we need to figure out what percentage of the total space in my home that my workspace takes up, so we know what percentage of my rent and home expenses I can write off. To do this, we're going to divide the square footage of my home office space by the total square footage of my house. So we take 124.26 square feet and divide it by the total square footage of my house, which is 2,145 square feet. When we do that, we get 0.0579. So if we multiply that number by 100, we'll get the percentage of space that my home office takes up in my entire house, which is 5.79%. So basically, I'm able to write off 5.79% of my rent, my utilities, my renter's insurance, any of the costs associated with my house. Now I'm going to show you how to use that percentage to figure out the dollar amount of your home office deduction. So for this example, let's say that my rent is $2,000 per month and my utilities are $100 per month. So that means that the total costs associated with my home per month are $2,100. So we're going to multiply that by 12 to figure out how much I spend per year on my house. When we do that, we get $25,200 as the total amount I spend on my house every year. So now we're going to use that percentage that we calculated before to figure out how much of that amount I can write off on my tax return every year. So we take $25,200 and multiply it by 0.0579. When we do that, we get $1,459, and this is the total amount that I can write off for this year as a home office deduction on my tax return. So there you have it. I hope that this made it simple and easy for you to calculate your home office deduction.